What's up, everyone, and welcome into episode number 501, where it is my honor and privilege to introduce a special guest joining this episode, and that is MSU wrestler Kael Wisler. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to have you on. It's Sunday, which means NFL football is happening. Lions play later tonight at 8:20. I know that you're obviously extremely excited about that, but I'm just excited that you're able to join. I know you have an insanely busy schedule, so I appreciate you taking a little bit out of your Sunday, the one free day that you probably have all week, to come and talk to me for a decent while.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here. And yeah, Sunday is a big football day for me. I love sitting down and watching football all day, but I mean, absolutely, I'll take some time and come do an interview. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you play fantasy football? Are you a fantasy football type guy, or do you more just try to enjoy football and not really focus on fantasy football for the most part?
I am in fantasy football. I want to say, I believe I'm in 4 leagues this year. I guess I can check it out. My teams are a little up and down through
Okay.
across the board, but I think as long as my philosophy is as long as I can try to make it to the fantasy playoffs later in the season, I think as long as I give myself a chance, I think I can, make something happen. So we're gonna see. Right now, I'm sitting around 500 in pretty
Okay.
much every league, so not too bad.
Hey, not too bad. I'm also in 4 fantasy leagues. I can say, unfortunately, I'm not that good this year. Unfortunately, injuries has hurt me a little bit, and just a weird year in fantasy football. But I'm sure people were really excited to learn about fantasy football at the beginning. But let's just kind of get into, obviously, wrestling a little bit. Like, how's just things been going this year? I know you've been at MSU for a couple years, just kind of getting started in like the regular season, kind of regular practices in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, things have been going really well. I say we've been wrestling a good chunk in the preseason here, and I can see myself getting better and better. I was gonna say each week, but honestly, every day. Yeah, I go in with a new goal in mind or a new, I don't know, position or move that I'm working on that I'm trying to adjust and get better at. And I feel like every day I can say as of recently I've been improving and feeling more and more confident as I'm going along. So it's been a great start to the preseason and the beginning of the year, but once we start competitions, I'm gonna be even more excited.
Yeah, and that's obviously the goal, is to get better every single day to build up to like your dual meets, tournaments, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's probably what you're looking forward to the most. I'm sure you probably somewhat enjoy practices, but I'm sure it's probably like the dual meets, the tournaments are the ones that you really look forward to the most to really show how far you have come from just the beginning of preseason.
Absolutely. Those are the tests. Those are, I like to think of it as every day you go to practice, you're just studying, you're getting better, I mean, you're practicing, but you're attempting to improve yourself. And then when it actually comes time to competition, that's when you test yourself, hey, have these adjustments I've been making been working? Have I been improving? And it really puts it all out there. There's nothing to hide on competition day.
And then obviously once you come to like competition, the meets, all that kind of stuff, then you kind of learn about like what's working, what's not working, and then you can kind of adjust from there. Like just see like what is happening, and there's probably a lot of adjustments and a lot of work in season, maybe a little bit more than preseason on trying to get like the fine tune the right things to hopefully have a great season.
Yeah, absolutely. You learn the most from the matches you wrestle. Whether you win or you lose, you can get so much out of some of those competitions that you just don't see in practice. I'm a big guy for watching film and seeing, hey, I did this. Did this work well? How did he counter it? And going through all the steps as to what can I constantly improve because no matter how hard you practice and how hard you work and how well you wrestle, there's always something that can be improved upon.
Exactly, and sometimes the biggest improvements come from maybe, like, difficult losses or wins that you should have had that just never necessarily perform as well as you did, but you mentioned a film. Have you always been kind of a big film guy, or did that truly start kind of in college?
I will say that since I've been in college, I've definitely watched it a lot more. I know that just growing up, I've always been a huge fan of the sport of wrestling as well. So even in if it's not necessarily watching my own film, it's watching other people compete and watching, hey, what does this guy do? Why does he do it like this? How good is he at it? and trying to take things away from other people. But I guess in college, I definitely do a really, I guess I look at it very intensely to see, hey, exactly what am I doing? What can I adjust? What can I fix? I ask a ton of questions to, coaches, teammates, my dad. My dad's very involved in wrestling along with me, so him and I constantly have conversations about, strategy and technique and everything I can improve upon. But I would say in college, it's definitely kind of stepped to the next level, but I have always been very kind of analytical in that sense with always watching film and always trying to improve in a couple different facets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you did mention like growing up, you were like a fan of wrestling. You did mention that your dad is heavily involved in wrestling as well, that you have conversations with him. Because of that, just talk a little bit about your wrestling journey because going into MSU, you had a pretty successful high school career, but maybe it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it to end because I know that your senior year you were very mentally like burnt out. You were kind of done with wrestling overall, but you had a great junior and senior year. Just talk a little bit about just how it got to that point, just your wrestling career kind of leading up to that point.
Yeah, great question. I was gonna say I started wrestling when I was 7 years old, when I was in second grade. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. I'm 21 now, so I guess you say what, 14 years. So I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I started out. It was obviously brand new to me as anybody else, and you start working through all the tough parts of practice and competition and learning as you grow, adjusting your style. And that was something that was always very fun as I went along. And then high school came along. It was the same idea, freshman, sophomore, even junior year, facing challenges, getting better and better and better. Um, Senior year was very interesting for me because I was lucky enough where I was kind of at the top. I I was, ranked number one in the state almost all year. Uh, I had some great wins under my belts. I wasn't facing a lot of competition that was really, uh, I would say, challenging me to the level that maybe I had previously. Where I like to think that if you're being challenged and you're chasing and chasing and chasing to get better, that's what really keeps you invested and interested in whatever you're doing. And I'd say senior year, I just wasn't necessarily being challenged and having to chase as I always was before. So I don't want to say that it got boring for me, but I just know that those practices every day became very tedious and monotonous, and it felt like I wasn't changing a lot. I wasn't getting better a ton, and it was just I was fully burnt out. I was like, all right, I've done this sport for 10 plus years now. I'm done. I'm burnt out. So obviously, I was still having success in the mat. I was having I was achieving some phenomenal things. I set my school record for pins, and I had the most wins on the team. Like I said, ranked first in the state, but the fire wasn't necessarily there. I was burnt out completely. So
Were you kind of going with the motions a little bit? Like, you know, that if you showed up to practice, if you showed up to the wrestling meet, wrestling tournament, that as long as you didn't vastly underperform or make a big mistake that you're going to probably win? Like, was it kind of just going through the motions for the most part? And kind of that's when you really started being burnt out and you're like, why am I even doing this? Like, if it's truly just me just going out there not getting tested.
yeah, it's an interesting question. I was gonna say the biggest thing is I don't know, wrestling's a sport that's very, very physically demanding. And so even though I wasn't necessarily being challenged, it is still very physically tolling and demanding on your body and on your system. So I was going to practice every day and I was still, putting myself through it. I was still working my butt off, and I was beating myself up, and I was having the success on the mat, but it just felt like I wasn't truly testing myself as I felt like I should be. And I felt like I don't know, just taking that wear and tear every day kinda mentally takes a toll on you, kinda strains you, and if, I don't know, you're not being challenged with it and you're not growing, it's not quite the same.
You seem to be someone that likes to have a challenge, someone that likes to be pushed, someone that wants to continue to work their way up. Like, obviously, it's a great sign to be the number one wrestler in the entire state, to be one of the best guys just entirely, but you almost seem to be like the kind of person that wants to be chasing someone a little bit. Like, obviously, it's a great sign to be number one. Like, you want to be kind of the one with the X on your back, but it's almost like you want to continue to be pushed and continue to have that drive to continue to get better. And when you're not getting that push, sometimes it's difficult to have that drive.
Absolutely, I am. I would say, uh I mean, even stepping away from wrestling, just in life in general, I like to think that, whether it's school or whether it's work or pushing my career, the more that I can learn and grow constantly, I feel like that's gonna make me better as a person, and it really just keeps me interested in whatever I'm doing. I think that if I'm doing the same thing every day and it's getting monotonous and I'm not really learning anything more, that's when I start to, I don't wanna say get bored, but, it wears on you a little bit and you kinda look for a change. So you always gotta keep things interesting and fun and exciting and always learning and moving forward. So I would say obviously it's the same way with wrestling. You gotta keep striving. I enjoy being the underdog more because it keeps you chasing after something and trying to improve, trying to get better, and it keeps you invested.
And who doesn't love an underdog story? Like, who doesn't love someone that beats the favorite, someone that is surprising at like NCAA like tournament? Like, if you end up performing extremely well, you get an All American. It's not maybe something that was projected of like someone specifically, but like, who doesn't love the kind of that story of like that one person that unexpectedly surprises everyone? Like, that has to be the greatest feeling in itself, being kind of that one person if it does happen, but also it's that self-belief as well that you can get there even when things aren't maybe going as well overall for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the underdog story is one of the best there are in sports, and it's one of the most entertaining to watch. Uh, I don't know. I think that when you achieve something that you're not expected to do, I think overcoming that challenge, overcoming that obstacle is even more satisfying than, if you win a big award, but it's something that you were expected to do. I don't think it feels the same. I think overcoming that obstacle is really the best feeling in sports, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why we love sports is just those stories, the underdogs, just the stories of just how someone gets from one place to a next place. And your story is unique because you mentioned obviously at the top of the mountain, like getting like burnt out. How difficult was it getting through that stage of being burnt out? Like, was there anyone specifically that kinda, like, lit the fire under you a little bit? Because, obviously, we're talking right now, like, you're not done wrestling, you're wrestling at a D1 level. Like, you had success, you were kinda done with it at that point. Like, what changed for you? Was it just MSU giving the opportunity? Was it, like, an individual that's like, "Hey, you know what? You're too good to be done with the sport."
Yeah, so that's a great question too. And my senior year of high school, even though like I said, I was ranked number one in the state most of the year, I ended up finishing second in the state tournament. I lost in the state finals to a guy I beat him earlier in the season. Him and I wrestled 3 times that year, so we wrestled twice during the season. We split, and right before the state tournament, I got the food poisoning. I got the
Oh,
stomach bug,
that's not
and I
good.
got sick right before the tournament. So I'm not sure if I would have, won or not, but I think if I would have won, I definitely would have called it a career right there. I think, you finish on top, finish state champion, that'd have been good. But I finished second, which, I was still pretty happy with, especially given the circumstances and based on how the year was and how I felt about the sport at that point. Like I said, I was burnt out, so I was just like, I'll take second place. It was pretty good. Um, it wasn't until I got the opportunity at Michigan State that, um, I guess I don't wanna bounce around this. Once I actually got to Michigan State and I was put in the new scene, I had the new coaches, the new faces, the new teammates, uh, and all of a sudden from being at the top when you finish high school to now when you first start college, you are at the very bottom of the totem pole again. I mean, I would go into practice and tournaments, and I would even say weeks at a time where I wouldn't even score, let alone winning matches like I was in high school. And it kind of completely flip flops everything. So I would say that that definitely reset me once I actually started wrestling in college. It just, because I'm not sure if in high school and nothing against high school. I mean, I loved it, but just the scene that I was in there and how everything was going, I'm not sure. I think it took a huge change for me to be able to flip out of it and to see where I'm at now and absolutely be back in love with the sport, and I love every minute of it now. It's phenomenal.
See, that's interesting to me because a lot of people would hear that going from on tap to going to the bottom of the totem pole to not being able to put up any points. Like some people might view that as like that would drag you down even more. Like that would motivate you less, like, it would basically you're already tired of the sport, like, now you're not scoring whatsoever. Like, some people might view that and saying, like, "Why even, like, do it at this point?" Like, I'm at the bottom of the total pole, like, I'm not feeling very well about things right now, but that's not your approach to it. You almost, like, smiled a little bit and you're like, "Hey, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole." Obviously, probably not the greatest feeling in the world, but, like, you almost kind of felt a rejuvenation of, like, getting back into wrestling to finally get to that point where you were prior, but you have to work your way back to that point.
Oh yeah, it's all about perspective in reality. I mean, you can look at any situation and be positive about it, or you can be negative about it. And I'm not sure if that's something that I necessarily knew when I first came to Michigan State, that I had to, take this opportunity and be as positive as I could. I definitely was grateful for it. I can say that. But as for coming in every day and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be as positive as I can be," that was definitely something I had to learn as I went along. That wasn't something that I just did. But what I will say is that challenge, like I said, learning and being able to grow and being pushed, uh, that really helped me stay positive and stay into it as much as possible, and then it just blossomed from there.
Exactly, and you did mention, like, for the first couple weeks, for the first couple, tournaments, like, struggling to just put up points or just struggling to go up against these older guys, like, you're going up against probably 20, 21, maybe 22-year-old as probably, like, an 18, 19-year-old, like, what was it like initially getting to, like, MSU? Like, was it, like, a full-on, like, grind? Just how different was it compared to what you had prior to MSU? And how long did it really take you to kind of like realize, hey, like I actually belong here because you did walk on to MSU. You weren't given a specific scholarship. You had to earn that opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll even jump back a little bit and to say that, I had an offer to my senior year. Like I said, I wasn't from a very big high school, so I wasn't, the most well-known guy in the state, and even the state of Michigan high school wrestling, we're not the biggest in the country in terms of our competition level and how viewed we are. We might be, kinda rounding out the top 10, but we're not, a Pennsylvania or an Iowa or somewhere that it's like a religion down there.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
stacked. Like everyone knows and everyone loves the
right,
sport.
everybody, lives and breathes wrestling down there.
Yeah.
Um, but Michigan it's still a wrestling state, but it's not quite as big as some of those other ones. But I had a couple offers that, like I said, I was burnt out. I kind of pushed away. Nothing that was the best fit for me. I actually planned on going to the University of Toledo when I
Okay.
finished high school, and I wasn't gonna wrestle. And I guess to those who don't know, Toledo's just it's a smaller school. It's still Division 1, but it's right on the border of Michigan and Ohio. But I was just gonna go there. I was gonna be in a dorm with one of my buddies from high school and be in the engineering program and just kind of, I don't want to say relax and live life, but definitely not push myself and not challenge myself necessarily as much as I knew that I was capable of. Uh, so last minutes, really right after the state tournament, Michigan State came offering and said, "Hey, we like the way you wrestle. We're interested in having you here. We don't have a spot for you necessarily, but we're going to offer you to walk on, and we think that you can do some great things here, and we're interested to see it." Uh, that opportunity was definitely one I was grateful for, but at the time I was like, "Man, I'm burnt out. I've been turning down a couple other programs. Like I have no intention of really doing this, right?" And I felt like I had a couple more signs, a couple people pointing to me that, "Hey, maybe this is really the right decision for you," and thinking through it. I ended up going through with it, and it was very last minute. I didn't decide till I think it was the very beginning of May.
Wow.
right around my little sister's birthday, which is, I guess, in the high school into college world, that is a very, very late decision.
Yeah.
It was right around the time I was graduating, and, like, you already don't you're already graduating and don't know what to do. It's kinda crazy, so it was very last minute in terms of deciding, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Michigan State." But once I did get there, yeah, it was a grind for the first, I would say, probably month or 2. I went in and, uh, I started at 184 pounds, and we
Okay.
had guys at, 184, 197, and heavyweight who were all really good and, national qualifier level. We had guys that were ranked top 10, well, top 15, almost top 10 in the country that I got to wrestle with every day. And I guess those guys, I guess to name Lane Malcheski, Cam Caffey, I'd wrestle them as often as I could, and I just wasn't even in the same realm as they were. It was unbelievable when I first started. So I think that right away pushed me to say, hey, there is other levels to this that I haven't seen before. Um, so just being able to feel what those guys could do, how fast they were, how strong they were, how confident they were in their technique, it definitely pushed me to say, hey, I'm at this level, which is fantastic. I've been working hard to get here, but there's, above and beyond what I could even imagine. And it took me a while to start matching up with them, but eventually you kind of chip away, you get your first takedowns on 'em in practice, you start transferring it to competition, you have a good win here and there, and it just kind of keeps building off of itself.
Exactly, and going up against those guys, the top 10, top 15 guys in the country, did you have, like, a specific, like, welcome to college, like, moment, like, maybe, like, a practice or, like, a moment of practice where maybe they I don't wanna say, like, slammed you, but, like, where you're like, "Okay, like, this isn't something I've experienced in a little while."
Man, I mean, I have to think of an exact moment. I will say that there are a lot of moments I can remember from those first couple months that were, welcome to college type moments. I know that uh one of my first practices there, we had uh we do in wrestling, we do this it's like a competition type thing in practice. You're going live wrestling, so you're going as hard as you can go, but it's still practice. So, you know, it's not quite the same as competition, but we call it shark bait.
Okay.
So basically, there's one guy who is the guy who is the shark bait. He's out in the middle, and it's a group of 3 or 4 guys usually who will kind of change in. So the one guy stays in the middle and one guy will attack. And then after he's done, the second guy will come attack and the third guy will come attack. And basically the guy who's stuck in the middle just keeps getting beat up and beat up and beat up. I remember one of those first practices. We did shark bait and I was in a group with oh, I have to remember exactly who it was. I know that Lane Malcheski was in the group. I'm not sure if Caffey was there or not, but I know there's a couple of those older guys who were, 21, 22, even 23 years old. And I just got the crap kicked out of me. It was bad where I
Yeah.
was like, barely anybody scored on me senior year of high school, and now I'm here, and I mean, it was embarrassing. It was really bad, and that was just in the summertime. I think July or August leading up to actually going to Michigan State. So that's where I kind of had to readjust some expectations and say, okay, this is a lot. These guys are good, but I'm gonna slowly chip away at it, work day by day, and I'll match them someday.
What are your thoughts on that drill now, shark bait? Do you enjoy it now, kind of having a little bit few more years behind you? Like, it's one of those things that you probably enjoy doing now that you have a little bit more time, obviously have, like, specific records, have specific, like, goals, obviously, like, you were top, I think, at least 30 in the country last year, at least for a little while. Obviously you've had a lot of success since kind of that start, but I'm sure it's probably something that you enjoy maybe a little bit more than the very beginning when you're getting your butt kicked a little bit more than probably you are now.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, it's all about perspective and getting better. Even then when I was getting my butt kicked, I mean, yeah, it's rough. You got to try to keep your head on straight, but nowadays it's just about, hey, you're in it, you're getting attacked. It's how do you adapt to it? How do you hold your own? How do you try to keep your head above water? How do you keep fighting it as hard as you can, no matter, how difficult it may get, how how hard can you fight back? And, I don't like I said, it's all about perspective, so I guess nowadays, I definitely have my head on a little bit more straight and can gain as much from it as possible as opposed to just getting beat up on and, like, just embarrassed.
Yeah, and when that's happening, especially the last couple of years, just kind of continuing to get better. We talked about at the beginning how you want to continue to get better every single day, how you've been seeing that improvement. How impactful are like your coaches, your teammates throughout that, like getting better, but not only getting better when you're kind of like struggling early on? Like, just how important were they in kind of your development from that point to where you currently are right now?
I think they're incredibly important. I think that, being able to have people that you are going side by side with it as, I mean, you're struggling, but they're also struggling with you. It's just knowing that you kinda have that bond between each other that says, "Hey, you're not alone in this," which is very nice. And then as well as I mentioned it earlier, I think, but asking as many questions as possible. When you're going through difficulties like that, being able to ask other people for help and say, "Hey, how can I get better at this? How can you help me with this? What should I change? What can I improve?" Guys who have been through it already and know some of those answers, having those guys around you is incredibly important. Uh, as well as, I mean, they pick you up in general, just for them to say, "Hey, I went through this too, and I'm up here now. You're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna get through it." It's huge. It's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's about being like a sponge, like learning from the people that have been there a little bit longer than you. But now you've been through MSU for a couple years at this point. Is it kind of weird being more on the back half of your like wrestling journey, like kind of being one of the older ones in the team? Like, how have you taken to that? And is it something that you enjoy? Because at the beginning, you're talking about taking information, asking questions, learning from the older wrestlers, and now you're one of the older ones, and you probably have freshmen that reach out to you, and you're like, "What exactly do I do here?" Or like, "Is this something that you experience?" Like now you're on the opposite side of that.
Yeah, it's a fun dynamic. Uh, I don't even know how to describe it all. We make jokes about it now that I'm one of the oldest guys in the team, which is hilarious. I mean, I'm in my 4th year now at Michigan State, and, I'm referred to as an old man sometimes, being 21. I'm like, "I'm 21 years old. I'm not that old," but
I was
just
just going to
compared to
say, have
some
you
of
been called
the younger
Unc
grades
yet?
we have.
Does any?
Here and there, I get it every now and then. We have a couple of guys that are still older than me who I
Okay,
think take most of the runt of the jokes, but
yeah.
I catch strays every now and then. Uh, but, it's definitely an interesting change in dynamic where, yeah, I'm a guy now who's getting asked a lot more questions by some of the freshmen and sophomores. Uh, so being able to, distribute some of the knowledge that I've learned while I've been here, I think is important, and, trying to lead by example is the biggest way that I like to do things. Doing, I don't know, just the right things every day and saying, "Hey, if somebody doesn't know what's going on, at least they can try to follow me," as opposed to being on their own. I
Yeah.
think that's huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You had those older wrestlers, like you talked about Lane, Kathy, like you talked about those guys, like those guys were impactful for you, and now you're kind of being that impactful one, kind of being that leader, being in your fourth year after being a walk on. And like I mentioned earlier, not necessarily guaranteed. Like you don't every walk on doesn't necessarily make the team, or you're not even guaranteed to contribute. But like that's not been your story. You not only have contributed, but you've helped out the team the last couple of years. You have a goal, I know, this year to hopefully be in a top 15 in the country. Like these are expectations, and these are things that prior to wrestling in college, maybe this is like uncharted territory for you. Like, how does that feel? How are you like working through that? Like going from where you were at the beginning to uncharted territory, knowing that, hey, I have these big goals, these big aspirations for this year, knowing from exactly where you came from.
The biggest part of it is I just have to remember, like you said, where I came from. It's it's not like I just woke up and I happen to be in a position where I can succeed and I can be at the level that I am now. It's took years of preparation and hard work and struggle and asking questions and trying to improve and trying to get better and feeling a lot of the negative and trying to turn it into positive. There's a lot that goes behind it. So in any moments, whether nowadays if I succeed or if I fail or whatever it is, at least I can look back and say, "Hey, I've put in all this work. I've had these results already. I can hang my hat on something already," which is amazing. And I think the biggest thing that I'm experiencing nowadays is, and I'm sure that it comes with being a little bit older and a little bit more knowledgeable, is just the boost in confidence. Just the how I carry myself every day, knowing that, hey, I'm a little bit older now. I'm a little bit more experienced. I know more things, and just having the confidence in my abilities. I would say even a difference between last year and this year. I'm expecting a big jump on the mat based on, just the belief I have in myself and my abilities.
Yeah, and that's huge, right? Like having that self-belief, especially in a sport of wrestling that you see very few people ever go undefeated. Like that's just not something that typically happens. Now, if you're some of the best in the country, you might maybe go undefeated, might lose once, might lose twice, but wrestling is a sport that is grounding a little bit. Like you might be wrestling the best as you possibly can, but then maybe you step on the mat and you get surprised one time, or you make one mistake and you end up losing a mat. Like you have to have that self confidence and that self belief in what you do and what you have done in the past, that you need to be able to take an opportunity to learn from those mistakes, but also not let those mistakes affect your mindset going forward. It's just something that's part of wrestling that you just are going to lose at some point unless you just dominate everyone, which typically doesn't happen, especially in college, because I'm sure you realize like any person you wrestle in college, they're good. Like they're there for a reason. Like they're not a D1 wrestler because they're bad. They're a D1 wrestler because they're the best on their team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I take for granted sometimes too, is that, everybody at the Division One level is, I mean, for the most part, everybody is a state champion, maybe state runner up, or at least a high placer. And some guys are even, some of the national champion caliber guys have been number one for years. So they've been there, they've been around, and they understand what it's like. So yeah, any given match you go out there, you got to know that the guy across from you isn't just some scrub, some guy who doesn't belong to be there. They all belong to be there, and it's some of those little details that matter that can put you above them. But I do like what you're saying with, I mean, really, you have a lot of good days and you have a lot of bad days. And when you first lace up your shoes, especially if you're going out for a competition, you don't know how that day's going to go. So trying to keep your head on straight and trying to say, hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to lean back on my preparation and whether my body's feeling really good today or whether I'm not going to feel my best, I just know that I'm going to give 100% effort and I'm just going to go see what happens. That's the most important thing when you're going out to compete.
Yeah, and I'm sure knowing you, knowing any wrestler, like there's going to be days where you don't feel 100%. Like it's probably at the very beginning of the season, maybe your first match, you're like, oh, I feel really good, maybe possibly. But then, like, you're going to have to fight through injuries. You're going to have to not feel 100%, but you still have to go out there and perform for yourself, but and also for your team as well.
Yeah, that's big, especially like you mentioned, throughout the season, you're gonna get, bumps and bruises and, twisted knees and shoulders and everything just kinda hurts a little bit more as you go throughout the year, so, yeah, being able to understand that, "Hey, I'm not the only one who's hurting, this guy across from me is also, going through some of the same stuff, and I'm gonna be a little tougher than him today. I know I've worked a little bit harder than him." It keeps you grounded, which is nice.
Yeah, and that it's that physical toll that can take on you, but it's also a mental game as well. Like you're both dealing with injuries, you're both dealing with the hurt, with the suck. It's about who's going to be mentally stronger, and there's kind of that gamemanship that really happens, kind of that chess match in the middle of like a match between you and the other guy. Like that's just what it is. It's you versus the other guy versus the other team. It's kind of a chess match, and it's truly about not only who's physically better, but sometimes it's more about who's mentally more locked in than the other person.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something I love about the sport of wrestling is that even though it's a team sport, we have, a group of 30 some guys in there right now that we wrestle at for Michigan State. When you actually go out to compete, it's just you on the mat. It's you versus your opponent, and there's only 2 guys. It's not like, all these guys who help me to train and to grow and to get better, they all help me off the mat, but when it actually comes time to compete, it's just on me. It's just my focus, my ability to compete, and yeah, I kinda understand that gamesmanship between me and my opponent that, it's who's got it that day, who's more mentally locked in, who's physically feeling a little bit better. There's a lot of aspects that go into it.
And the crazy thing about this, like, gamemanship, this chess matches, you can't really truly, like, think in, like, a match either. Like, if you think, you're gonna probably be a little slow. Like, you kinda have to know what you're gonna do. You kinda have to, like, take advantage of mistakes from the other person. So, it's a gamemanship, it's a match, but it's also, like, if you think you're gonna be probably a little slow, especially at the level that you are in.
Yeah, absolutely. You rely a lot on muscle memory, especially at this stage. Everything happens very, bang bang. It's quick. There's not a lot of opportunities to stop and think. If you start stopping and thinking, the opponent's going to capitalize on that. They're gonna score. They're gonna beat you. So you just gotta roll with the punches and keep fighting and keep going hard no matter what, and trust that your preparation is going to be able to carry you through.
Exactly. So, how cool and what does it mean to you when you do step on the mat wearing an MSU singlet to not only kind of like represent yourself, but represent like the university? Like you are an MSU wrestler, you're wearing the MSU singlet, you're competing against like an Ohio State, the school down the road. Wisconsin, any team you're going up against, you're representing not only yourself, but you're representing the University of Michigan State. Is that a pretty cool feeling? And what was it like the first time you got to step on the mat wearing the MSU singlet, knowing that, hey, I am a college wrestler?
It's something that's incredibly cool. It's something that and in all honesty, I often overlook. It's something that I don't put a lot of thought into because when you're stepping out on the mat for the first time, you got 1,000 thoughts bouncing around your head and everything's happening so quick that, you know, it's not often that you take a step back and you say, "Hey, look at the situation I'm in. I'm wrestling for a, Division 1 Big 10 school. I get to represent this amazing place and do my best for this place that it's done its best for me." So it's something that I actually need to do a better job of it's not necessarily being more grateful because I'm definitely incredibly grateful for where I'm at and how I've gotten to this point, but it's something that I need to reflect on a little bit more often and say, "Hey, this is an awesome opportunity. This is, something I gotta try to make the most of every second I get because it's amazing and you never know when it's gonna end." So being able to go out there is really cool.
Exactly, and I feel like that kind of reflection a little bit takes time. Like when you first kind of truly begin the college journey, I'm sure you're probably like, "Oh, I got quite a bit left to go." And now that you've kind of gone through that, there's probably a little bit more reflection that you kind of have been having. You're like, "Look how far I've come. I only have X amount of time left." Like it's about truly not only trying to get to the goals that you want to achieve, but it's about reflecting on the time you've had and hopefully still reflecting on the time you have left.
Yeah, definitely. I will say there have been moments too where, uh, it kinda sticks out to me more than others where, I mean, for example, I'll give a situation where, we wrestled the school, like you said, down the road. A couple years ago, we were in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
So, we were at, the Chrysler Center. It's their big basketball arena, that's where they held the wrestling meet that day, and I wanna say there was between 4 and 5,000 people there. It was a pretty big crowd, and I guess personally, I wasn't necessarily used to wrestling in front of a crowd that big. So, I mean, in high school, we'd get, maybe 100 people out to the meet. Some of the tournaments, you'd get, maybe upwards of 1,000, but they're not all watching you at once. But then actually going out and getting to wrestle on a stage like that where, hey, I'm the center of attention right now. I mean, it's just me and the other guy, and there's, 5,000 people watching just us. That puts it into perspective a little bit more to say, hey, this is pretty cool. This is an opportunity that I have that, not many can say they get the opportunity to do. So I remember that meet in particular. I won the match, which was even cooler.
Hey, there you
But
go.
I had a bunch of people from back home, from high school and from, the youth club that is from where I'm from, come to watch and, family and friends, and that was a big moment for me being able to go down there and get a win in a situation that was, there was thousands of people there. It was ridiculous.
I'm sure there's no better feeling than that, not only to get that type of win in front of that crowd, but to do it in front of people that you love, like family, friends, like people that have been with you through their journey, but then also the younger generation as well, like the people that are looking up to you. Is that kind of a weird feeling a little bit to go from kind of the young wrestler where you're probably looking up to some of these college wrestlers and I'm like, I want to be like them. And now you're kind of the one where you have the young kids kind of like looking up to you, kind of wanting your autograph, wanting to talk to you. I'm sure that's probably a pretty cool, like full circle moment, kind of going from being that kid that wanted to get there to now being that college wrestler that you would have been looking up to all those years ago.
Yeah, it's been an adjustment. It's definitely come full circle, like you said. I remember the first time I got to sign autographs. Uh, I didn't really know what was going on. They like kids just started coming up to me like, "Oh my gosh, Kael, we look up to you." I'm known for I wear high socks
Okay.
on the wrestling mat, which is kind of my calling card. It's kind of weird, but that's a whole story in itself. But kids came up wearing high socks saying, "I pull up my socks because you do, and I think it's so cool. Can you sign this?" And it would just like it kind of took me off guard. Like, I can't believe that individuals actually follow me and actually love watching me wrestle. I think that's awesome. And yeah, it does take you back to when I was little and saying, "Hey, I had role models that I looked up to and guys that I enjoyed watching compete." And now being at the stage I'm at saying, "Hey, there's other people that do this to me." It comes full circle. You're absolutely right. It's something I don't think about often, but it's ridiculous.
Is there a story behind the high socks? If there is one, I would love to hear it.
Well, the main story is actually when I was it was when I was really young. I started wrestling when I was 7. I wanna say this was probably my 2nd or 3rd year wrestling, probably my 2nd year, so I'd say about 8 years old.
Okay.
I was wrestling in a tournament, and for wrestling, it's you versus your opponent, you both wear an ankle band. So, one's red and one is green. So, to mark which wrestler is which, they wear these little it's just like a little band that they wear across their ankle, and in a big tournament, the ankle bands will sit out there all day and they'll have, maybe 50, 60 matches on a mat. And so that means 50, 60 wrestlers who are all sweating and doing all this crazy stuff keep wearing the same ankle band. So I remember at this one specific tournament, Woodhaven, that was pretty close to my house actually. Uh, my dad is a bit of a germaphobe.
Okay.
And so I think he came to this conclusion that, hey, they wipe off the mats, they wipe off headgear and everything, but I have never seen anybody clean one of these ankle bands. So he's like, "I think that you should pull your socks up a little bit more so that the ankle band doesn't have to touch your skin," which is it's kind of a weird story
Yeah.
where it originated. But so after that, I started pulling up my socks, and then I don't know if it was just something that got comfortable for me, or if it was something that I just like to do or what, but, I mean, ever since then, I can't remember a time where I didn't pull up my socks, and since I've been in college, people say, how ridiculous it looks, and at this point, I mean, I can't stop now. I mean, it's something I've done since I've been 8 years old, and I'm just used to it. I know that when I put on wrestling shoes, if I'm not wearing tall socks, it just feels wrong.
Yeah.
It just feels, I don't know, just goofy, so something that I stick to now, and I know that my family and some of the fans that I have absolutely love it because they can spot me from a mile away. It's something that nobody else really does, and it might look a little goofy, but it's uniquely me, so I love it.
Yeah. Hey, that's what you're known for, right? Like you mentioned, like had kids come up to you and have those high sacks. Like that's just something that like you're obviously known for. It's something that you're seeing like other kids kind of do. Like it has to just be kind of like a cool feeling. Like you're not doing it just to like saying like, hey, I want to stand out. I want to be the only one doing it. You have a good story behind it and you just have done it for as long as you have. And now you're seeing people have kind of like an impact on them. And I'm sure that's probably a cool feeling as well. You talk about kind of like your fans, the people that follow you. I know you also have a TikTok as well that is completely hilarious. I absolutely love the TikTok. I know one of those. You did the strike three call, which was
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. So you see a little bit of your personality there. You see a little bit of personality on like on the mat, and you also see your personality on here as well. Like you're someone that likes to have fun. You're someone that loves the sport of wrestling. You're someone that just has done this for a really long time, but you want to be able to kind of like help out other people. You want to be able to learn a lot about not only what other people have learned, but you also want to learn a lot about yourself as well. And that's where I kind of want to get to these last couple of questions is just what have you learned most about yourself and just how has wrestling at MSU and just wrestling in general shaped you to be the person that you are?
That's a great question. Well, I guess it's I'll say that Michigan State has taught me an unbelievable amount about I guess it's just helped me transition from, being a kid to being an adult, which is, obviously everybody goes through that in their life at some point, but I think Michigan State has really helped those steps move on for me. I mean, even moving to the dorm my freshman year to now I live in my own apartment, uh, having to make your own food, having to put your own schedule together, having to do your own laundry. I mean, even little things like that I think have shaped me into becoming an adult and it's a lot about perspectives and learning and growing and knowing that hey, I'm becoming more mature. I'm learning more about this subject or this topic or whatever it may be. I will say going back to what you mentioned before, I think as a little kid looking up to some of those other wrestlers that were in college when I was little, always looking up to them, watching. I think I always watched him on the mat and said, "Hey, I like this guy's style. I think he's just really cool because he's, I guess you would say a professional. There's no professional wrestling, but college is professional to a little kid. Uh, like the professional guys, like just being able to watch those guys is really cool. But I don't feel like I ever really put a lot of thought into it that, that's a person too. They have their own personal life. They have their own personality. They do all these crazy things. And, uh, I think college has helped me understand that, you're allowed to be as goofy as you want to be and you can do things that it's like all right if somebody doesn't like it so be it like that's who I am and that's who I like to be and I guess even going back to the TikToks some of those ones are just I don't know I like being really silly on there I don't post a lot of you know informational stuff, just some stuff about me being a goofball, some of that personality getting let out, but, I enjoy it. It's something I think is pretty funny, and I think that I've reached out to a or I mean, I've touched a couple people who have, gotten a laugh out of it, and I think that's pretty cool, so
Yeah, and you mentioned like when you're looking up to like the D1 wrestlers when you were as a kid or like people that just even like want to get to that point. Like I feel like sometimes people look at like D1 athletes and just look at like all the really cool stuff that you get, all the really cool stuff that you get to do. And obviously that's a great part of it, right? Like that's a thing that you get to do. You get to travel, you get all this gear. That's a great perk that you get, but there's a lot more that goes beyond just those things. Like, there's the person themselves, there's also the amount of time, the amount of effort that you have to put in. Like, you've put in 14 years to get to the point where you are. Like, it's takes a ton of effort, it takes a ton of time. And obviously, like, I would love to be a D1 athlete. That would be fantastic. That would be like a ton of fun. That would be like a dream come true. But it's almost like one of those things where it's like there's so much more than just being a D1 athlete and getting all these accolades, getting all these things. Like it's about kind of the growth, about the journey. And I feel like you touched a lot on that. It's like obviously you love what you do. You love representing the Michigan State. You love representing the university. You love wrestling, but it's more about kind of the growth that you've had as a person along the way than just those specific things.
yeah, absolutely. You're spot on with everything you're saying in terms of, there's a lot of details that go into it and being grateful for it every day as well as, using the platform to the best of your ability to, help fans and to help show other people that, hey, I came from a very small school. I wasn't a huge wrestler. I wasn't a big, recruit or commitment. Uh, but it's something that, I'm trying to prove every day that I can, even though I wasn't, huge coming out of high school or whatever it may be, I can still make an impact here in college. I can still be one of the best of the best, which is really cool. It helps put into perspective that I think that anybody can do what they set their mind to. I think putting in the hard work every day and growing and trying to get better, you can do anything, which is a huge lesson that most people know, but it's always good to be reminded of.
Yeah, sometimes it's one of those things where you have to kind of be reminded from time to time, like just how much you've been through, but also kind of that self belief, like kind of getting back to like the full circle thing of getting back to like having belief, enjoying what you do, kind of going through like the struggle and all that kind of stuff. And I want to end on one kind of question because obviously you have big goals, you wanna get to specific spots, you're living out the D1 wrestler dream, like, you're getting to do it at University of Michigan State. That is just, like, anyone would love to represent a school like that. I do wanna kinda give you an opportunity to wrap up with this, though. If you had the opportunity to talk to yourself, like, let's say when you were burnt out your senior year, or just any athlete that's just struggling that has, like, big goals to them, what would you say to them? Like, kinda being in the spot, like, learning everything you've been through, like, you probably never imagined yourself being at this specific spot even 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. You're absolutely right. I definitely 4 years ago, I would not have imagined myself being in the spot that I am today. So, I guess advice that I would give to past self or to athletes who may be going through something similar, um, I think the biggest thing is changing the perspective a little bit. I know that I was my senior year, I was very locked into the same, you know, monotonous, very tedious, like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna do this. It's just, it's you kind of mentioned going through the motions. The biggest thing is changing the perspective of saying, hey, I get to do this. I have the opportunity to grow and learn and compete and ask questions and accomplish all these amazing things that so many others don't get to. So many others aren't blessed with the opportunity. So many others aren't, you know, people aren't even able to get up and move around sometimes. And being able to do that, especially at the caliber or the level that you're able to, work hard, work hard, work hard, do everything you can and always try to change the perspective. That's the biggest thing is appreciate what you have and keep working to improve upon it.
I love that. That's not only a great perspective, but it's just something that you can tell that you live. Like you've talked so much about perspective. It's all about perspective, right? It's all about the way you approach things. It's all about the way you believe in yourself. It's all about the way that you think. And it's truly one of those things that I know people say it and sometimes it's hard to see it, but, like, if you believe in something, if you have a goal, if you put your mind towards something, you can achieve anything. And at times, there's probably points where you're like, I don't know if I necessarily can do that. You don't necessarily see the whole picture, but it's about perspective when you get to that point. I think that you have a great perspective. I think you're going to have a great year. I truly wish you the best of luck this year. I know you have big goals coming up. I know that you're kind of at the very start of the season. I know it's a long season. I'm sure that you're going to probably go through ups and downs, but I truly appreciate you joining, man. It's been a ton of fun. I think you've brought a great perspective. I think you've talked a lot about stuff that people go through. And I truly appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to talk a little bit about not only your journey, but talking about Division 1 wrestling, wrestling at MSU, what it means to you. So I truly appreciate you joining. I really hope this was worth your time.
Absolutely, it was. And yeah, I was going to say thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and be able to voice some of my story and some of my opportunities that I've been given. So yeah, I appreciate all of your time and I thank you for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I always say to anyone that ever joins is, if you ever want to come back on talking about wrestling, we can absolutely do that. No pressure whatsoever. But yeah, I really appreciate it. I truly do mean good luck this year. I do hope you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. I hope you have a great year. Obviously, good luck to Michigan State this year as well. I know you guys' season starts up here shortly. So best of luck this year and thanks again for joining. And hopefully, you can enjoy a little bit of football right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Same to you. I was gonna say, definitely most of the rest of the day, I'm sure we're gonna be watching football. But yeah, no, I appreciate the offer and I appreciate the opportunity and yeah, it's gonna be a great season. So
Abs
thank you.
Absolutely, and that is a wrap to episode number 501. Thank you again for joining, and make sure to tune in to the next episode.